gentlemen, everybody, wherever you are, however you may be listening, this is your Wednesday wrap-up. And, of course, Herb is here with me this morning. How's it going, man?
Just reposting the link so I can get more of my millions and millions or tens or a couple of people to watch.
That is
my
awesome.
overinflated ego this morning.
So, I mean, obviously other sports exist, but the NFL free agency is popping off, and really the rest of the sports are in a spot in the year where they don't matter. Baseball hasn't really done anything yet. It's spring training, so it's not like any of it matters. Hockey, basketball, they're kind of not quite there yet. And March Madness, technically kicked off last night, but, that's smaller schools and stuff. So, I mean, not a lot else going on. But we do have some big names that are starting to move around the league. And NFL free agency has become a little bit of a fiasco. I figure we'll start off on the team that hasn't done a major move. So they started it out going and getting DK Metcalf. So now you have Pickens, you have DK, right? What they haven't done is secured a quarterback.
Yeah.
So you have two diva-ish receivers that get mad when they don't get the ball and have, after the play issues. And you haven't found the guy that's going to throw him the ball. Now, the only two options that they really seem to be eyeing is keeping Russ, which probably makes the most sense, right? He already has a thing with DK, right? And he likes to throw the long ball, which, let's be honest, is about the only route that DK runs well. So DK is he's that guy that if it has to be a crisp route, he's probably not your option, right? Like he runs go balls well. I've said it on other shows. People always want to compare him to Megatron, which makes absolutely no sense other than his just physical size. Right. But I always compare him to Dez Bryant because he runs three routes well. It's a go, it's a post, it's a corner. That's it.
And this is not the hey, he just got traded, I'm trashing our guy. This is what you said when he was on the team, and you didn't think he was going anywhere. So this isn't this is definitely not. No, you said this numerous times. I think a week or two ago when he was very clearly on the team. Yeah, you said the same thing. So now we've talked about it.
So now they're looking at a quarterback situation, right? So how's it going, Win?
What's up, Win?
So if they stick with Russ, that would make all the sense in the world, right? Like he likes to throw long balls. They're looking at adding a running back. So this would make a ton of sense. But as of yesterday, it sounded like Rodgers was really close to a 2-year deal with the Steelers. And that was via Policero. So, I mean, it's not like it was, NFL memes or something like that, right? Like it sounds like
definitely feels like that's where it would be going. Yeah,
exactly. So,
oh my goodness.
But what do we know about Rodgers? He hates guys that are out of position.
Yeah.
Right.
And will let you know very publicly.
Right. He will absolutely throw you under the bus if you're out of position.
Yes.
What are the two main receivers that he has?
Yes.
When are they ever in position?
Yes.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm for it. Like, this sounds hilarious. But, I mean, if they're winning, it'll be quiet. Right? Like, Rodgers will still throw them under the bus a little bit, but there won't be too much animosity there.
Right.
If they're not winning, you have the egos of Rodgers, DK, Pickens, and Tomlin. Because Tomlin can get a little, snippy when they're not doing well, too. So if you have those egos battling it, I hope they are terrible. Yes. I hope he goes there and they're a 3-win team.
They're a 3-win team. I'm saying Tomlin has killed one of them by week 6.
Again, I am here for it.
Mike Tomlin murders George Pickens. Was allowed to stay with the team because he's acquitted of all charges. Yeah,
man,
saw it coming. I don't. First off, Devontae Adams is already going to the Rams, so I don't know why that he's wanting to go quarterback anywhere else. This whole grab all my guys strategy is not going to work anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know how that's working. And it is the weirdest strategy. It's like you had two quarterbacks last year, and you went after every wide receiver. So you just gave up on the quarterback thing. So let's just go get the wide receiver first, and everything else will work itself out.
Right.
Plus, we also let our running back go that we could have, had the fifth year, I guess, and just cost controlled. But I guess we'll go draft that again too. So.
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like they were targeting Chubb, though.
Yeah.
So if they let him go and they think they have the inside track to Chubb, like I kind of get that. Because I mean, Chubb may not be what he once was, but I mean, still a great back.
Right.
So, I mean,
right.
Yeah, I think that could work out. Again, neither one of those deals have happened though. So right now they don't have anybody, and they have two receivers that are unhappy if they're not getting the ball.
Yeah, and sometimes unhappy when they are getting the ball. So
I mean, very true. Yeah, Trey Lance exists.
Yes.
There we go. We covered him.
Yeah. That's a former top 5 pick though. So
yeah, it is. Well, and so that actually will bring us to your.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. So I'm sad he's not
now.
here. You must not have told him when the show starts.
Yes.
But the Dolphins go and grab Zach, and the thing that's funny,
is everything.
This is why I wish he was here, because I'd actually give him a little bit of hope. Because
Bo is asking for you. There you go.
There you go.
I'll try to help you. I'll try to help the show out, Bo. He's got the message.
I want to try and give him some hope, because I know the first time that rolled across, you are not happy. You're just like, wait, we did what?
Oh, you asked me. We were actually we were having a fun discussion. So it's one of those typing in all caps just because you're having fun. Like, oh, Mike's got all the women. Oh, this is going on. That type, Zach Wilson to the Dolphins. So I type, no. And that was it. Conversation ended.
And when you will have to watch the Steelers, if this all comes together, especially if they're bad, if they play well, it won't be that big of a deal. But if they play bad, so I'll be hoping for them to tank more than normal.
And I usually root for Tomlin and the Steelers, but yeah, I could not have. I mean, if you're going to make decisions like that, then that's just on you. So
for sure.
You have to already know. It's like you watched what happened with the Jets and went, we could use some more of that, Mm-hmm. So, and keep in mind, Jets had a great defense, and I'm not saying they're related, but got a coach fired, and the defense just kept going down and down. You don't see the similarities, and you invite that into your team. Hey, like I said.
Well, so it's funny because on the show last night, that came up, the defense, right? And they're just like, oh yeah, but do you think that Glenn can get that defense back on track? And it's like, of course. That defense was top 5 until they fired their head coach, elevated a DC that was then more focused on being the head coach because he has to be.
Right.
Of course that unit's going to start to fall off. Plus, the team wasn't playing well. So they were on the field for 40 minutes a game. Like, that's not exactly a recipe for success for your defense if you steal their coach away and have no offense.
Yes. Yeah. I said it when it happened. I was like, so the offense is really bad. You fire the defensive head coach, and then you sit there and fuss at the defense. Like, why is the defense falling apart? They got to be demoralized. They're like, wait a minute, we lose our guy.
Yeah.
But your guy didn't get fired.
Right.
And if you think, all of us. I think sometimes we look at like, oh, these are business and everybody's got to do their job. No, everybody's still human, and that's just how that works. You fire my guy, and your guy, gets a little demotion, but he's still on the team, even though your side is the ball is what's letting us down. No, and you're catering this whole team to one person who's not getting it done, and when he doesn't get it done, there's no accountability. So, hey, if my guy burns by me this one little play, like you can't come yell at me, right? So
Exactly.
I guess we're good. So. It's amazing to me how they don't think there's any kind of trickle down effects, or that we all can't see what's going on. It's not like these moves are made in secret. You're not playing Madden at your house and nobody else can see your controller. Like, it doesn't. None of this makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Like, no, it's.
Well, I mean, that's got to be kind of like the guys that are still left on the Giants.
Yeah.
Like, how do you put together a program so bad, pay the wrong guy, let a guy go that almost sets the rushing record, wins a Super Bowl, and then you spend a bunch of money on a receiver, still don't have
Yes.
quarterback, and somehow that coach and GM and all those guys, they're still there. So if you're on that team, you're just like, I don't really understand how this works.
No,
right?
not at all.
Not
At all.
That's how I stay here.
Yeah. And you know what they're going to do to keep their job? They're going to go out and sign some middling quarterback, right? Try and get that team to 8 or 9 wins to show progress, buy themselves another year, miss out on the top quarterback next year, and then just kind of perpetually be in this whole, let's just see what middling quarterback we can sign. And but apparently that's the strategy. But, I tried to talk this over with the Giants person. I was like, we tanking, blah, blah, blah. Oh, but then this organization won't get to choose well, shouldn't they be out the door already? Like, what have you seen in the last 4 or 5 years that made you think, yeah, that one win over the Vikings had us on the track to the Super Bowl? If you traded away that whole team right now, you'd want to keep, like, what, 3, 4 guys, 4 or 5 guys for your future?
No. I think you were right the first time. All right, 3 or 4 guys.
You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yep.
But I think we talked about this on another show. GMs don't often enough seem to get the axe, for this kind of stuff. And it's like we always do coaches first. But I mean, you saw it in the college football playoffs. You're only as good as your players. You could put the best team out there in the world, just have a middling, coach and still get by. Versus, and there are some coaches that get the most out of their talent. I will give you credit for that. But I don't know. Bill Belichick hasn't done that great after Tom Brady left.
Well, I mean, I think the best example of that was you had Vrabel with the Titans, right? And he takes them to a championship game. His GM gets him worse players.
Yes.
A aging out Tannehill. Do nothing to give him depth.
Right.
They fire Vrabel.
Yeah.
The GM stays. And you're just like, I think that's
weird.
Not how that should work. Like, he literally acquired no talent, and his guys were still playing for him.
They were.
Right? Like, they
were winning games they shouldn't have won.
Absolutely.
Easily.
And they were a bad team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
no, I agree. I'd even throw in, like, holding on to Derrick Henry a year too long in there as well, when you had no designs on using them. And like I said, the Tannehill one, he was just unplayable by the end. I think the year before, actually, in their little playoff run, they showed how unplayable he was. So
I mean, his arm was just dead.
Yeah.
There was nothing left in it. Rashad, this I'm not sure which channel you're talking about, but if you're talking about Herb's channel, right there on the screen, Alabama, that is that team. I am a Seahawk fan, although this show here is covering all sports typically. Although today is mostly NFL because, well, free agency just started. And Steve-O, you are right. The Giants killed Hard Knocks, and it should have killed that GM's job, but somehow didn't. Yeah. So that's interesting. Right. Here we go. Hey,
he answered the text.
I want to give you some hope, man, because I know you probably were not excited about Zach Wilson coming to your team. But keep in mind, he's going to get playing time because you have a quarterback that cannot stay on the field. But
the hopeful part about it is think of the previous 2 high draft pick quarterbacks that came from the Jets. Both ended up with $100 million contracts, right? Darnold to the Seahawks, got paid, had a 4,000-yard season last year. Geno headed to the Raiders, going to get $45 million a year. 2 of the last 3 years, 4,000-yard seasons. So maybe the Jets are just so dysfunctional that, I mean, he was a reach at he was a second pick. He was a reach there, but he was still a first-round prospect. So, and you're getting him for nothing. So there is a chance.
And similar to what we said about Darnold, right? Yep. Will have the best weapons that he's had, I guess, since he's been in the league.
Exactly.
And an offensive-minded head coach that'll work with him. So
exactly. So
I see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, right.
I don't know if it's a train or just a light, but hey,
it's definitely a train. It's just whether or not there's a second set of tracks that you can be like, oh, let me just move over a little bit.
Move over, yeah. So.
But no, I mean, there is some potential upside here. There is a ton of weapons on that team, and this will be his first chance to legitimately play for a team that wasn't a dumpster fire. I mean, his time with the Broncos wasn't exactly when they were all headed in the same direction yet.
Right.
So I look at it as there's potential upside for a guy that you're going to spend zero money on.
Yeah. Where did Geno go after the Jets?
What's that?
Where did Geno? He didn't go straight to the Seahawks from the Jets, did he?
No. So he was a backup. Let's see. Who else did he back up?
Well, my point on this one is, while you're thinking about it, I think it takes at least a team to get the Jets stink off of you before you're good for your next team.
Oh, well, I mean, if that's the case, then Rod, you're in trouble.
No, because he did go to Denver.
No, he went to the Broncos. Yeah. So, hey,
look
at that.
I'm just saying, you go to one team, you wash the stink off of you, and then your next team benefits.
Yeah, there you go.
There's a strategy.
I mean, you are right, though, right? Because Darnold, he needed the
Carolina and
the Panthers there, yeah.
And San Francisco.
I can't remember where Geno was, but
I just know he didn't. I didn't think he went straight to the Seahawks. I thought it was.
He didn't. Yeah, and he actually backed up another good quarterback before coming to Seattle.
He wasn't on Denver, was he?
No, it was.
Let me see. We gotta get this.
I'll have to Google it because I don't remember.
Okay, he went to the Giants and Chargers. Yeah, he went to the Giants and Chargers.
Oh, Giants. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so he was behind
your Chargers. Yeah,
he was behind Manning then.
So there, Raj got it. There you go.
There we go.
He said, "Just need to win a few games with Tua." Yeah, that's all you need, and be more competent than your last guys. Like, I didn't understand why they didn't try to push the ball down the field. That should be one of your plays, like every down, every set of downs. Hey, we're going long with at least one because all we have is speed on this team. So, what's up, Mike?
Hey.
So,
man,
the Jets stink. So the next guy who does that mean though? If Steelers get Aaron Rodgers, it's not even a decent version of Aaron Rodgers.
I mean, it wasn't going to be anyway.
There's no hope, Herb, at all.
Well, I mean, so the thing with Rodgers, right, is people are acting like, oh, the last few games of the year were great. It's like, okay, so he had a couple of good games, but they were good. They weren't like amazing or, they were average quarterback play kind of games.
Right.
He wasn't good prior to that. Last year he was hurt. And everybody's just forgetting the fact that his last year with Green Bay also wasn't great. He's 4 years removed from MVP caliber play.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't he got hurt and he was coming back last year. It's like, no, he was fully healthy that last year in Green Bay. And you've watched Love take those same weapons, right? It's not like they flushed the whole team. They just got rid of Rodgers And Love has taken those same guys to the playoffs.
Yep.
So, I mean, it's not like Rodgers is, coming off an injury and they're like, oh, look, he's going to be awesome. It's like, no, he hasn't been awesome in a minute.
Yeah. This is one of those situations where if I had an excellent defense and a lot of weapons on offense and I was like, I just need a guy to kind of get me by, I can see. But you're asking him to be in positions where I really need to elevate the offense.
So can you though? Because
I wouldn't. I'm just saying that was his best case scenario. Me, I wouldn't touch Rodgers.
Period. I mean, I just look at a receiver core of Adams and Garrett, and Lazard was still good in the slot, and a top 5 defense. Oh wait, he was on that team. Oh, crazy.
You know what? The problem right there, a lot of it, I think, was having Adams there and the whole, I think I'm just going to get my guy the ball a whole lot. And, Garrett, sorry, didn't even notice you were still playing and running routes. So, but your point is 100% valid and just kind of just shoot my theory out. So, sorry, Aaron Rodgers. I was trying to help you out, buddy. Bo shot it down. It wasn't me. It was sorry.
Well, I mean, I just don't know how much better of a situation you could have had.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, the Jets had nice pieces.
Right. I agree.
And a great defense.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason for them to be as bad as they were.
Yeah.
Outside of really poor quarterback play for most of the season.
Yep.
And the inability to keep your mouth shut if you and your receivers weren't on the same page, which, shocker, you're not on the same page because you don't do anything in preseason. So, of course you're not.
Yes. Yes. And then, like I said, you alienate your own team by just bringing in guys that you like.
Yeah. Forcing guys out.
Williams, and I still don't think that was on him. That was just a terrible pass play, but saying he ran the wrong route and blah, 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 whatever, and then he's out. Huh?
Even if he did run the wrong route. Like, that dude killed it for you in other games.
Right.
Right? But instead, you decide to barbecue him on national TV, and you're just like, man. And then, a week later, 2 weeks later, he's gone.
Yep. And catches a game winner in Pittsburgh. Now, that's all he did, right? But it's but yeah. And then, but he never does like Devontae Adams like that, No matter what happens in the game, Devontae's good. So, again, it kind of goes back to the accountability we said earlier. Okay, so if I mess up, Rodgers is going to throw me under the bus.
Yep.
But if Devontae just does whatever he wants to do. Now, look, Devontae is a great receiver, and doesn't seem to be that way. But it would still bother me. And then if I'm Garrett Wilson and I'm the number one and I've done nothing to not be the number one, and you bring in another guy and all of a sudden you're force-feeding him, I'd be like, there were trade rumors for Garrett Wilson towards the end of the year. I'm like, so we're just giving up on a young talent because the guy that you brought in likes somebody else? Yep. You don't need one of these guys in your future, right? Just say it.
Yeah, they're and not like long-term future, like maybe not future next year, which obviously neither one of them are there. But it's just like, what are we doing? Again, from afar, because it's not my team, you're just like, man, this is some good TV. Like it's there's some drama that doesn't need to be there that is there.
Yep. And we're talking about like the end of the season. Well,
Yep.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Last 6 games, they won 2 of them.
No. But his numbers were okay, right? Like so, because at that point the defense was really falling off.
Yep.
But I mean, at the same time, like his numbers started to pick up, but you were mathematically out of it, so it didn't matter. So now there's no pressure.
Right. And now you're just doing whatever.
Yeah. So
I throw this pass up, it gets caught. Cool. If it doesn't,
Well, and when you think about how many teams, when there's no longer pressure to make the playoffs, start playing well, like that happens all the time.
Yeah.
So I don't put a lot of stock in, look what he did the last couple games. It's like, because the games didn't matter. It's like tons of guys are good when the pressure is no longer there.
This is true. This is true. Oh, we got to make the playoffs? Yeah, stinker. Oh, got nothing to do? Just padding with stats? Love this game.
Let's go. Yep. Yeah, no, I don't know. The other one that I find interesting that is
is a little bit surprising, I guess, is Daniel Jones to the Colts. And that is designed to fight for the start.
Yeah.
What's that?
So, no, I said entertainment value. No.
Yes. No, entertainment value is great.
I know I've seen two different things on it, right? Before he moved to the Colts, and I wish I feel bad because I can't credit whoever I was listening. It was a random NFL program.
Okay.
And one of the commentators on there said, what would be a good fit for Daniel Jones is the Colts. He's like, that running game, that line,
Yes.
I'm okay with those receivers. He would be, great for there, blah, blah. So, okay. Then last night in prep, when we had our guest on our show, I'm looking through his past posts just to get a couple of his opinions. And I come across a post where somebody said the lowest two QB percentages or whatever in the last 5 years or whatever are Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones.
Yes.
And I was like, this is going to be a heck of a quarterback, competition. So what side of it do you land on then? Which of those two? Or is it somewhere in the middle?
Man. So I'm not confident either way. I wasn't confident when Richardson went as high as he did.
Right.
Right. I mean, because you watched him in college and he struggled to hit passes that are easy passes. Right. Amazing athlete.
Yeah.
Right. The problem is that doesn't always translate. So when he had his monster, pro day, right, where he launches that like 80-yard bomb, awesome.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. I saw Jamarcus Russell do that from his knees.
Right. So but how much time in the pocket do you need to be able to uncork an 80-yard pass?
Yes.
Like 5 seconds, 6 seconds for a guy to get that far down the field?
Right.
That happens 0 times ever in the NFL.
Yes.
So for you to just be in the pocket for 5-6 seconds doesn't exist.
Right.
And especially when you have linemen at the combine that are running the 40 as a 4.5, 4.9. Sorry, you're just not going to have that kind of time. Yeah. So although amazing athletic feat, again, not really that useful.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, Richardson has been so erratic as a pro that Jalen Milroe's draft stock has dropped. So that's how. That's because everybody who comes. I know it's not exact because I've watched.
Milroe, I think Milroe is why Milroe's stock dropped.
I know, but I really wanted to make that joke, so I wrote it all the way through. But it is the problem for Milroe is his comp is always Richardson. And everybody looks at how the Richardson situation has been managed, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm not taking a guy like that high ever again. That we need to be a project." And then
a project in the first round makes no sense.
It doesn't. But everybody, I think SEC wise, for sure, and it feels like the rest of the country. But I say SEC because that's where he came from. Was like, really, you're jumping. The guy didn't even start enough to warrant a top 5 pick. And that's what you're doing. And then, we see how the organizations are. Everybody's trying to keep their jobs. So you're not necessarily trying to develop anybody. You can't say that you developed Jordan Love. You can't say you even developed Aaron Rodgers when he came up. What you did was have a quarterback in place that you couldn't necessarily move out yet. And those guys sat. Everybody else, you're forcing out there well before they're ready, well before the team is ready, because you're like, if I get him out there, but also, it also seems like if I get him out there and he's not ready, is the coach trying to get the GM fired? Like, I don't get how this. A lot of this works. Yeah,
well, it is funny. It's a super impatient league, so I mean, there is that, and development isn't really a part of the league anymore. It used to be really common that a quarterback comes out and sits for at least a year. Yeah, that was all the time.
Yeah,
and now it's almost weird when one gets to sit. Yeah. But when you look at the guys that have the most success, that's usually those guys that had the ability to sit, kind of see how the league operates, let the game come to them a little bit, as opposed to get shoved out there. Not to say that all of them, right? Like there's tons of guys that have come out, started week 1, had success. Like not saying they didn't. But if we look at this draft class, your top 2 guys, Shedeur, Ward, I don't think either one of those guys are really ready to go week 1. Now they're going to have to be because they're going to go to terrible teams, but
they would absolutely benefit from sitting. Like there's neither one of those guys look like they're really ready to go. Ward is probably the most pro ready guy,
Right.
but I mean, even still, like I wouldn't want to start him week 1.
No. And not even just from their skill sets, but the teams they're going to. You're setting him up for failure. He's maybe not 100% ready. Your team is absolutely not ready, or you wouldn't be picking. Like, I don't think either any of these teams at the top were thinking, you know what, they're a quarterback away from playoffs. Like, no, you have a lot more going on. So, no, I don't think I don't think either one of them should start. But like you said, it's more impatient. I think, honestly, social media has helped that out because the fans can voice their opinions so much faster these days, and people are reading that and putting it out there. And now you've got a million talk shows that are telling you how terrible your team is, and your owner sits back and reads all this stuff and goes, hey, man, we need to win tomorrow, you know? Like, look at late in the season with the Giants. The best thing for them to do was just to lose the rest of the season.
No question.
And you go out and you win a game, and then the fans are like, yeah, we won. I'm like, you dropped from the first pick, though. So
yeah, I think that had more to do with Drew Lock wanting to get another job.
Right. But I'm saying, as a coach, the second he started doing anything good, yeah. Hey, man, I saw you limping a little bit on last play. No, fine. I saw you limping.
So like you're either going to sit down or I'm going to break that knee. Yeah. No, I got you. And Raj, I really don't think that they would be drafting a quarterback. They still need other weapons. So, I mean, if you're going to have a quarterback competition, it'd be better to have guys to throw to. And I mean, they need to make that team better still. Last thing they need to do is bring another quarterback in, especially in a weak draft class, because there's not even going to be a second round quarterback probably. Or if there is, it's going to be super late.
Yeah.
Right. Like your third quarterback is probably round 3. So, I mean, it's not a great draft class. In fact, if you look at the guys that are at the top of the board this time, they wouldn't even be a first round pick last year.
Yeah.
Like you had 6 guys come off the board. Neither one of these guys would have been in those 6 guys. They would be a day 2 pick.
Yep.
So,
and Daniel Jones is only signed for a year too. So
exactly.
I think they're just pushing this into like, okay, Anthony Ritchie got one more year to try and prove this to us. You know, and if things go south, then both of you guys will get pulled. We'll put Herb in at quarterback, and we'll draft a guy the year after. There's a plan, baby.
And it's funny because I don't know that I've ever seen a pro day elevate somebody's draft stock more than Richardson.
Yeah.
Because people were talking about him as a late day 2. And then he has the pro day and really the one throw. Right? Like nobody talks about any of the rest of his pro day. They're like, did you see how far he threw the ball? And then all of a sudden he's a top 10 pick. It's just like, that is wild to me because you are just ignoring every piece of tape you've watched.
Because I'm looking up, so 3 years at Florida, didn't start his first year, had 1 start the second year. He had 12 starts. I didn't remember him getting it through the whole year, his third year at Florida. But I mean, they went 6-6. It couldn't have been that great, you know. 53, his completion percentage was 53%. I mean, you see all the stuff there, you know, 9 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. Yep. You've never seen a stat line like that go for the 4th pick. It doesn't make, you know, all the evidence is there. You had, like, to your point, you had to say, forget everything I've seen. Yep. That pro day in a controlled environment where he was making that one throw, amazing. Imagine if we had a receiver 80 yards down the field, he could have caught that. Like, that's your logic.
Imagine that in stride. That is crazy. Yeah, no, I mean, it just doesn't make sense. So, but, I mean, do I think that you see another pro day get that kind of reaction? Probably not. Because most people will look, I mean, maybe in a few more years, but you have to be, as a GM, you have to be like, yeah, so we saw how that worked out. Let's bump the brake a little bit. If he falls to us, cool, we'll take him. If not, because I mean, obviously not a great pickup. Dalton had more success there than Richardson has.
Yeah.
So, which also lets you know that team isn't quite as far away as that team looks like it is.
Right.
I mean, they do have some nice things about that team, but
Yeah, I mean, mostly to answer your question there, Raj, like there's no way they're taking a quarterback. Well, they may take a flyer on a guy in the 6th round because there will be guys there. Like they may try and grab a depth piece, something like that, but
Right.
they're not going after one of the top 2 guys.
Yeah. No, I don't think so either. And I can't think of a lot of guys that make sense, especially after you sign Daniel Jones. So, like you said, you might get a depth piece, but no names are coming out for them.
No.
They're going to ride this out for one more year and then see what they have next year. I'm here for it.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you think that D-Hop going to the Ravens does anything?
No. I mean, it's a better than the Odell Beckham signing.
I mean, sure.
But not by much. It's still a run-heavy team. Feels like they have like 12 receivers at this point because you grab one like every year now and you trade for one every year now. So it feels like there's 20 guys over there. But D-Hop at this point, like Lamar's best passes don't seem to be like drawn up passes. They seem to be like, hey, I've run around for a couple years. And D-Hop at his age, I could just see him 5 seconds in, hands on his knees, like, bro, what are we doing? Like,
I mean, so yes and no. Like, I could see it if you were using D-Hop in the slot.
Right.
Like, because he can still get separation. He may not be quite the burner that he once was, but like he can still separate. So if you were to use him in the slot, like I don't hate that. And at the same time, you're looking at it as like, okay, they have Derrick Henry, but they seem to be reluctant to use him a bunch of the time. So you're like, okay, well, I mean, a sure-handed receiver does kind of make sense since you're going to ignore the fact that you have this mountain of a human behind you.
Repeatedly.
All
I'm
the
surprised Derrick Henry hasn't just punched somebody out at this point.
For real.
I mean, if you look at it on paper, Flowers, Bateman, Hopkins is your starters. Mark Andrews out there. Isaiah Likely behind him. I forgot Nelson Aguilar was still there too.
Yep.
I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world, so I don't mind them taking a flyer on it, but
well, and it was cheap, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure that's it's probably like a $8 million deal.
Right.
Would be my
I love
guess.
how we got to the point where we're like $8 million. It was cheap.
Well, I mean, when you figure the payroll is like
oh no,
$279, right?
You're right. I just think it's funny in our terms. We're like,
Oh,
$8 million, cheap. Football though, that is like extremely like they probably don't even notice that money. So yeah, it is crazy.
Yeah. No. I mean, for D-Hop, that's cheap. And then, you go to Burger King and you're like, what do you mean my value meal is $15? Like,
I know.
incorrect. Like, what are we talking about?
1 year, $6 million.
Oh, so even cheaper. There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
So I don't mind them taking a flyer on it. I just don't know if it moves the needle.
Like, I'm not mad at him ring chasing. Like,
No.
you wanna lift that trophy once. You want a ring. I mean, one, it'll help cement your case for the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Right? Because if you get a ring, hey, give me my Texas Double Whopper. Why are you hating?
Oh my goodness.
But
Raj, he only goes to Burger King because he owns one. That's all. That's
hey,
it's in his backyard.
let's go. Yeah, but again, like I'm not mad at ring chasing.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of the day, you want to say that you were at the top of your sport before you retire, right?
Yeah.
And then having a ring helps get you in the hall, right? It's why Eli is gonna get in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and he shouldn't have been a first ballot, so I was glad to see that he didn't get in. But those 2 rings against the Patriots are what get him in.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, you look at the rest of his stats, he's a very average guy.
Yeah.
In fact, I think Phillip Rivers, I think, might have better numbers than him.
Right. Regular season.
But
Yeah.
Rivers may not get in because he didn't get a ring.
Yeah.
But
And failed repeatedly against the same team in the biggest moments. Or at least
exactly,
his team did. I'll say that. So
yeah. Well, and he had some clunkers in the playoffs. So, I mean, it's not like he was like lighting it up and his team just fell apart. Like
right.
he also didn't play great a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So it's so rings matter, right? And if you're D-Hop,
you want one on the end of that resume. Plus, you put in your time on bad teams, so it's not like
exactly.
My thing, whenever somebody says that somebody's chasing a ring, well, there's two things you're going to sign for right now, right? You're going to chase the ring, or you're going to sign for money.
Yes.
And we're going to talk bad about you for both, then just just pick whichever one you want. But that's basically what we do. Had he signed a, 1 year, $20 million contract with the Giants, we'd be like, oh, he's chasing the money. He signed a 6 year with the $6 million 1 year with the Ravens. We're like, oh, you're chasing the ring. So,
you signed
and then if he retired, we'd be like, you're quitting. Sorry, go ahead.
No. You signed that deal with the Giants, and you're chasing the end of your career is what you're doing.
Basically. And you're like, I'm trying to get that last paycheck. But you're either doing one of those two things. You're signing for the money, you're signing for the ring. So you can't hate them for both.
I mean, those are the only two things you play for.
Yeah.
You're either trying to win it all or you're trying to get paid.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
you'd like it to be both, but
Yeah, well, I mean, I look at football careers this way. Like the first you're on your rookie deal, you're trying to win, right? Because your money is fixed. Like there's nothing you can do about it. Like it's predetermined. Wherever you got drafted, that's the money you're making. So you're there to try and win. If you survive those first 4 or 5 years to get your next contract, you go get paid because that's life-altering money. Like you do that.
Yeah.
And then if you make it through that contract, then you go back to let me get a ring because if you made it through two contracts, your career's almost over.
Yeah.
Right. It's very rare that somebody survives longer than 3 contracts. Like that's just not really a thing. Your average career in the NFL doesn't make it through the rookie deal. Right. So,
and rare that you're still on the same team at the end of that last one too.
Exactly. So if you're going into a third contract, you go right back into let me get a ring.
Yeah.
So I'm not mad at it. I'm not mad at it. And honestly, you can say Bosa is ring chasing, but the Bills need him.
Yeah.
He
was let go. So it's not like he demanded a trade or tried to get out. Like, what's he supposed to do at that point again?
Yeah. No, like he's got to go find a team. Yeah. I did kind of think he was going to go play with his brother, though. I'm not going to lie. Yeah. Like that really looked like that might come together, especially with the Niners dumping like half their team.
Right.
So I really did think that he might go play with his brother. I still think that Diggs might go play with his brother. Right. He might go down to Dallas.
And now he's not ring chasing. All
of a sudden, all the Cowboy fans just click out. They're like, the hell with this show.
I never liked it anyway.
That's awesome. Yep, definitely not ring chasing. Certainly not this year.
No.
Which might be the thing that keeps him off that team.
Right.
Because, he clearly is towards the end of his career here. So he might be interested in going somewhere that's a little bit more competitive. The problem is he is who he is.
Yeah.
And, a lot of teams aren't that interested in the drama that he potentially brings because we watched him do it with the Vikings. We watched him do it with the Bills. We didn't hear much from him with the Texans because he got hurt.
Yes. Yeah.
So
now you have a diva coming off an injury that you're going to want to have to, don't sign me up for that.
Yeah, no, hard pass.
But somebody will. They always do.
Someone will. Yeah. Someone will. Absolutely. What's happening, Chad? Yeah, the Steelers, they're doing interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's how we open the show up. Like they're really bringing in some potentially toxic environment, and it's going to be a fun watch unless you're a Steelers fan.
This is the year that Tomlin finally is maybe time to head on out. So it is a clickbait story. I looked down real quick while we're on. I got the alert, and instead of saying who they signed, it says Steelers signed former Eagles running back. I said, well, that's not a good story if you're not even want to say it in the title. They're like to replace Najee Harris. I said, oh God, I'm not even clicking it. I'll wait till later. So I don't know. You want to talk about another move that doesn't move the needle?
That means they didn't land Chubb, is what that means.
That's I I mean, they didn't land any of the receivers they wanted last year. You didn't get Chubb if that's who you were specifically going after. Gainwell seemed good in moments, but you had the best line and you were the, second back coming in after they've been softened up a little bit. But not a guy I'm thinking, hey, we need to go get this guy. I'd almost rather just draft a late round running back. There's going to be a million of them out there if that's what you really feel like a need is, Third or fourth round, you're probably going to get a really good guy still. So, and for cheap, I don't know.
And I guess we have to talk about my Seahawks.
I was wondering if you were going to bring it up. I was like, You know what? I'm not going to be the guy. So.
No. I mean, of course, like I'm not going to stay away from what we're doing. So they let Geno go, right? And the rationale behind it, right, is Geno wanted 45. He wanted $45 million a year. And the thing that's funny is the Seahawks are like, yeah, we'll give you like 35 to 40. And he's like, no, I want 45. The part that seems wild to me is there wasn't any other options out there that were upgrades from Geno.
Right.
And even in the draft, nobody in the draft, I think, is really an upgrade from Geno, especially that they could go get, right? Like they're not going to get the top two guys. So anyone else they're going to get are, late day two, right? So then you look at it from the production side, right? And you're just like, okay, well, you have guys making 55, right? And Lawrence and Tua and Love. Like these guys haven't done anything. Geno has every bit of much success as those guys, mostly more. So it really didn't make a ton of sense that they're just like, kick rocks. So they send him out. They sign Darnold. This is where it becomes discouraging because this was your next best option, right? That was out there, and they were able to get him for the number they wanted at 35, right? Like he signed Baker Mayfield's deal of a 3-year, $100 million contract, 35 a year, right? So they hit the number they wanted, and that's all fine. But when you look at these numbers, Geno was more efficient. Darnold has more throwing touchdowns, but that's because the Seahawks like to run touchdowns in. Right. So that affects your ability to throw them in if you don't throw it. But then you look at those numbers. They're 1 yard different. The glaring difference between these two games or, 2 seasons, Darnold had a top 10 offensive line and a bunch of weapons.
Yes.
Geno had a bottom 3 offensive line. Still a lot of weapons, but he was the most hurried quarterback in the league.
Right. And you mentioned that several times last year. So again, this is not a waiting till the end comparison. You said in the middle of the year, hey, our offensive line stinks. Yeah,
no, exactly. So, but what the problem is when you saw Darnold last year against the Lions, against the Rams, where they were able to get pressure on him, he sure looked a lot like the Panthers and Jets version of Darnold. So you're telling me a guy that gets rattled under pressure is going to go somewhere where the offensive line is one of the worst in the league for the last 5 years.
Yep.
Like this isn't like a new revelation that like, oh, they were just bad last year. It's like, no, they've been bad.
Yeah.
So,
and then what, out of your top 3 receivers, 2 are gone now? 2, right? I guess depending on where you rank Lockett, but
so Lockett up until this last year was the number 1.
Right.
Like you can say DK should have been because of his size and speed and whatever, but Lockett was the number 1. He was the guy.
He was the more steady guy for sure.
Yeah, like he some of the best hands in the league.
Right.
So, it's and then DK leaves, but that doesn't matter as much as you'd think, only because he does run the routes that he runs. And I mean, to give you the best example of that is he was right at 1,000 yards with 66 receptions. What's that tell you? Those are all deep down the field.
Yeah.
Right. Like
and
that's
like 125 targets or something like that too. So he was getting the ball thrown to enough. Is that DK?
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, like, he had a lot of easier dropped passes. Like he makes a miraculous catch, but he can make some of the easy ones hard. But the biggest thing is he has 66 completions for almost 1,000 yards, which lets you know that most of those were deep down the field.
I got you.
And if you have a line that doesn't let you throw the ball deep down the field that much, well, like, what good is that guy on your field?
Right.
I mean, he was a $31 million guy that created a lot of, penalties. And then your offensive line doesn't give you the opportunity to throw him the routes that he runs well.
Right.
So like that one, him being traded, that one I've been talking about for a year and a half. Lockett being let go, you knew was going to happen. He was a $31 million hit also. Right. And he became the third option. JSN became number one, DK 2. Lockett was kind of the last guy. I think he ended up with roughly 700 yards. And so it just wasn't, he just wasn't used quite the same. So, both those guys getting let go made a ton of sense. So now you have JSN as your number one target. Bobo will get elevated. At this point, I want to say that the Hawks have, I think they have like 12 picks now because of some of the trades. So, and they have, I think they've gotten like 2 or 3 compensatory picks. So, I mean, like they got some.
Yeah, 3 compensatory. Yeah.
So, it should be a beneficial draft for him, especially as many offensive line are in there. The thing that's interesting about it is you had a guy that did well behind that offensive line. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, but we'll build the offensive line and give Darnold protection. It's like, cool. If you'd have done that to Geno, who was already more efficient than Darnold anyway, like he could have been your guy.
Right.
So it didn't
for a number that's just a little bit more than what you're doing. And remember, we talked about this with Darnold. It was the complete team that we thought would get him to have a better year. And like you said, you lose the line, you lose a couple weapons, and you're putting in a total different situation. You're probably going to see the old Darnold again when this all shakes out. So
absolutely. I mean, he won't be Carolina or Jets bad, but he's not going to be 14-2 either.
Right.
So it's he's going to be somewhere in the middle. He's going to be a middling quarterback. And not to say that Darnold isn't athletic. Like, he can scramble, but he doesn't scramble the way like Geno scrambles to extend a play.
Right.
Darnold runs.
Yes. For his life.
Those are not the same thing, right? Like, he will run for yardage. Geno will stay back to try and still throw the ball.
Right.
Like, he'll run forward if he has to. Darnold is much more likely to get through a shorter progression time and just go. So, I mean, both can work. I just, I much prefer my quarterback not get smashed all the time.
Right.
So,
You're funny like that.
Yeah. I just don't want guys to get hurt. Like, especially the guy that like makes your offense go. Like, I try not to have him like squaring off with linebackers and stuff.
Yeah.
Not to say that, I mean, Darnold can take it. Like, he's a big dude, but still, not a huge fan of that style of play. Chad, I wish you were here at the beginning of the show, man, because I'm curious how it is you like the Rodgers potential pairing with the Diva receiving crew. Sounds hilarious. So,
cannot wait.
Yeah. So, but that does get us towards the top of the show here. Let everybody know where they can find you.
You see on there our Twitter handle at Rog_Herb. You saw my brother in the chat, the huge Dolphins fan, who's one of the welcoming committee for Zach Wilson when he got signed to the Dolphins this past year. And then go to our Twitter. Go to our YouTube, Herb and Raj podcast on YouTube. You can check us out there. Check out all our videos. Our live show is 8 p.m. Central Time, Tuesday nights. Oh, man. Paper bag. Animosity at the end of the show.
And of course, if you are watching on my channel, be sure to like and subscribe. If you're watching on Roku TV, stay tuned for the next hour. Otherwise, we are going to get out of here. We will see you next week. Take it easy, everybody.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National